Энэ бол iPhone 6s. Дэмжих өөрчлөгдөөгүй. Гэхдээ хурууны даралтыг мэдэрнэ. Ингэснээр текстийн мэдээллийг уншихад өөр болсон. Имэйл уншихад, мэдээ уншихад байз. Чи мэдээ уншдаг гэж үү?
Яп.
Тэгэлгүй дээ. Камер нь 4К бичлэг хийж, селфи хийхэд эргэцэн гэрэлтүүлж өгнө. Энд ч нэгсээ лайк цуглуулна да.
Thanks.
Зургнууд нь бас өөрчлөгдөж амьд болсон. Та хүрээд үз. Тийм ээ, энэ бол өөрчлөгдсөн зүйлс.
Сайн байцгаана уу хүн төлөгчтэй. Өнөөдөр манай дефакто нэвтрүүлгийн зочноор санхүүгийн боловсролыг олгох Үндэсний хөтөлбөрийн зөвлөх ноён Shaun Mundy оролцож байна. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
What is that program about, please?
Well, it's about helping people throughout the country to manage their personal finances well. So it's giving people knowledge, skills, and confidence to do things like budgeting, saving for their future, taking insurance to protect themselves against risks, investing their money, and so forth.
I understand there were, before start of this project, there was certain analysis or surveys of financial literacy of the public in Mongolia.
Yes.
What was that about?
Yes. Well, the World Bank has developed a survey which it is now used in a number of countries. And this survey enables people to get a good idea of levels of financial literacy throughout the population.
How you would do that?
And that was done in 2012 by asking a sample of people questions and therefore finding out what they find relatively easy in terms of managing their finances and what they struggle with. And what that survey found was that people in Mongolia, many of them, find it difficult to manage their personal finances well. And that's similar to many other countries. You find in many countries people are finding this difficult. And in Mongolia, it was especially people in rural areas, low-income populations, which find this difficult. And I think one of the explanations is that in the past, people could rely more on the government, maybe on their employer, to support them financially throughout their lives. But now, in every country, people have to take more responsibility for managing their own money. And we need to give people the knowledge and the skills and indeed the confidence to be able to do that successfully.
So let's compare Mongolia with other more developed countries. 25 years ago, this country had no private property. That means no banks or what the finances or financial capitals that you and me are now talking.
Yes.
Were not there.
Yes.
Now people struggling to find out about the market economy, the chances given, but with quite different finishes. And if you compare with a similar country like Mongolia, which started this market economy for quite relatively short time ago, 25 years, would you expect it to be normal, that level of financial illiteracy?
I think it's similar in other similar countries, but not just in those countries. In countries like my own, Great Britain, there are many people who find this difficult. And I think it's partly that it's not just things which you know, things which you understand, but it's your attitudes to money. It's whether you want to live for today and forget about the consequences. You don't plan for tomorrow. And one of the challenges with financial education is that we're trying to alter people's behavior, and that's quite difficult. So it's not just giving them techniques, but it's getting them to think about their future, their lives, and how they need to change their behaviors in order to make a better future for themselves and for their families.
You see, you said to change the attitude, do you want to leave for today or tomorrow. And if you ask Mongolian government, they will say vice versa. They say that tomorrow doesn't matter, they keep borrowing. And with high interest rate, probably it is not the best reference for people to, because government keeps borrowing. People need to live within their own means.
Yes.
And to save wherever it is possible. And then 30% of the correspondents on that survey have or know or almost very little knowledge about interest. How do you find that? It's too low, not too high, no? With the not knowing interest rate about.
Yes. I think governments and individuals are very different. And whatever a government does, it doesn't mean that individuals should necessarily behave in that same way. And so far as individuals are concerned, and this is really what financial education is about, as you say, people need to live within their means, because if they don't, they're going to find it very difficult to make ends meet. They won't have enough money to buy the things which they really need. And then in the future, in years to come, when they have, let's say, families, or when they come to retire from work, they've got nothing set aside to cushion them against the expenses which they're then going to have. On interest rates, people do need to have an understanding. I don't think they need to be able to calculate compound interest, for example. I could do it, but I've never calculated compound interest in order to manage my money. But people need to have a broad understanding of what interest rates mean and how they need to choose products so that they choose loans with as low an interest rate as possible. For their savings, they're obviously looking for higher interest rates, why that's important to them, and what techniques they should use for making those choices.
So you and me talked about why we need that financial literacy for people. And the benefit is they will have better life. It will be good for banking system when you have a knowledgeable customers, etc. Now question is how you're going to do that.
Yes. Well, let me first take the first part of your question, because I think you're spot on. That this isn't just of benefit to ordinary people. As far as ordinary people are concerned, if they're better able to manage their money, then they will save more. They're less likely to become over-indebted. They will protect themselves against risks so that if the worst happens, if they have a car crash, if there's a fire in their home, if there's a burglary, they're protected. And they can invest some of their money if they have some set aside to build up capital for the future. So it benefits them. But you're absolutely right that this is also about benefiting banks, insurance companies, and so forth, because if they have knowledgeable customers to deal with, they spend less time explaining the basics. People are more likely to acquire products which are suitable for them, so there should be fewer complaints. If they're not financially literate, they could buy things which they don't need, and then they're going to be unhappy, then they're going to complain, so no one benefits from that. If people take loans which they can't service, then the bank won't get the loan repaid. So that's not in its interest at all. So that sector benefits. But I think we can also look at the government, the Bank of Mongolia, which is leading the work on improving financial literacy. Because if people acquire more financial products, that's going to provide a boost to the economy. That's in everyone's interests, including, of course, the government and the central bank. There will be more financial stability. People are less likely to panic if there's bad financial news. That, again, is in everyone's interest. There'll be less poverty because people are better able to provide for themselves. more financial inclusion because people will use the formal financial sector. They will take advantage of the opportunities there are. So I think this is one of the few things in life which can be genuinely characterized as a win-win. Everyone benefits from this. No one loses. So that's one of the few things in terms of public policy which is a clear benefit without any downsides.
You have been working in a financial capability department of Financial Services Authority of the UK, the highest authority regulating financial sector. And now you and me are talking about the insurance, banking, and then if we get the customers knowledgeable, then does it mean that the country, for example, if knowledgeable, they will have more insurance to buy, and they will be buying, they will understand importance of the insurance against damage, property or health, whatever happens, then does it mean if we have more people insured, does it mean that we will have more stable financial market in the country?
I think it does exactly mean that. And also more people will have the protection which insurance offers them, so that if the worst happens to them, then they get at least some financial recompense for it. So it's in the interest of the individuals, but as you say, it helps to stabilize the whole financial sector.
I'm trying to connect with the current crisis in the country, which is happening probably even more often than you would expect in bigger economies, mostly motivated or caused by political reasons in this society, other than China. I put aside the Chinese component. Then one of the reasons of this crisis is we have only one source of money from money market, not capital market. And with this more knowledge, financial literacy, we'll have more chance to develop that capital market, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. And when you're providing people with education about investing in capital markets, what's important is to start with the basics, because if you start by talking about capital markets and people don't understand about budgeting, about saving, about borrowing responsibly, then you're trying to teach people to run before they can walk.
Yeah.
But if you put in place those foundations...
So that means this financial literacy makes those foundations that they will grow.
Indeed. So you start with some very simple things about things that we need against things that we want.
Yes.
And if you spend lots of money on things that you want but you don't really need, you will have nothing left over to invest.
How will we do that training all around the country? It is what, a lecture, or it is some unit that exists at the local bank branch, or how do you see that? And what is the most efficient way to do so?
Yeah. I think what's really important is what works. And what works best will vary from country to country. The national program in Mongolia, I think very sensibly, has 4 priority activities. We could all think of hundreds of things which could be done, but the risk is that resources get spread too thinly.
Correct.
So I very much support the focus on 4 principal activities, which I think are very well balanced. So the first one is financial education in schools. And the reason I think that's important is that people begin to form their attitudes to money at a young age. And also, we've seen examples in a number of countries where if the children are taught about simple concepts of financial literacy, they can help their parents to manage the household budget. It's the only time in people's lives where you can reach everyone in an age group. You can't do that when people get older. So that's very much, again, laying the foundations.
So financial education in schools first.
Yes.
Then
and what's the plan is there to include it in an existing subject, life skills. So school curriculums are always crowded.
yes.
And it's much easier
So this is
to
within the
include it in an existing
first point in
subject.
the program.
That's the first point in the program. The second is youth, young people.
Okay.
At the moment, young people haven't benefited from financial education in schools, or very few of them have.
Yep.
And they're managing their money for the first time. So it becomes a reality.
Yeah, they
for
have,
them.
unlike the school children, they have more or less own small money they start to earn.
Yes.
And they now to understand how to manage the best.
Yes, exactly. And it's when we need to do things for real
Yes.
that we also learn well, because we can put this into practice.
Shaun, you know what I'm afraid of here? Mongolians get married earlier, even it was much earlier at my time,
Yes.
20, 30 years ago. Now they have become a little bit later, and I know in your country they got married about always close to 40. And the reason is exactly the better financial management. How you can get married when you don't have a home or somebody, place where you bring to your
Yes.
wife, you see? I think there may be a social
Yes.
impact on that youth financial education part.
Yes.
What is the third?
Yes. Well, let me just say a little bit more about
Okay.
young people, because one of the activities there is to provide financial education in universities and colleges. And education is about giving people the skills to lead responsible lives as adults. So I think some education about how to manage your money, we all have to do it,
Yes.
is very relevant.
How
there.
do outreach all of them in the youth?
Well, I think that is one of the ways of doing it. But I think we need to be quite sort of innovative and flexible. So think about other ways in which young people receive messages. Maybe
Through their
it's
own
youth
channels,
clubs.
audiences,
Indeed.
clubs, jazz clubs,
Yeah,
whatever.
and also through the media, which they look at.
Yeah.
Social media can be used to prompt people to go to the various sources of information. And Bank of Mongolia is going to be developing a financial education website. Well, that can have a section which is specifically targeted at young people.
I saw Олон Bank is doing education website
Yes,
where already they start this sort of training,
yes,
which is, I believe, good start along with Mongol Bank when they start.
yes.
Interesting. Young people, and it should be a part of tertiary education institutions' curricula.
Yes.
You reach already 30%, 50% of the
Yes.
youth. The others through maybe vocational training schools, wherever they are.
Yes.
Maybe then in the offices where, say, the office has certain responsibility to give it the knowledge.
Yes.
Even through, because most efficient maybe, because they give salary and ask them how you're going to do to
Yes.
manage and somehow.
Yes. I think that's a really good example. In the UK, one of our programs was financial education in workplaces. And we found that many employers supported it. Because if someone has money worries, if they're not managing their money very well, they have problems, they're going to be distracted at work, they're less productive.
Always.
They
yes.
may even get stress-related illness,
Yes.
so they take time off.
Yes.
And so it's in employers' interest that people understand how to manage their money.
That's a good point.
And I think, as you say, when they start work, that's the very best time. And it's a time when employers often give them information, as you say, about salary, about saving for their retirement, about all sorts of things which they need to understand in order to be productive at work. And some simple guidance about managing money would, I think, work very well there. And people tend to trust their employer. We found in Great Britain that when we asked people who they trusted, the employer came out high. And so everyone is more receptive to financial education if it's delivered by someone they trust than someone they don't know, they've never met, or they don't trust. So that's another reason why financial education in workplaces, as you were suggesting, could be very effective.
What is the third?
The third is people in rural areas. So the reason for that focus is that the World Bank survey, which I mentioned, indicated that people in rural areas have more difficulties in managing their money than people in urban areas. And there are various ways in which that can be delivered. So the National Centre for Lifelong Learning, for example, lifelong education, could be used. They have a lot of teachers, 12,000 I think, in different parts of the country. They could be trained to deliver financial education, and I think some of that is happening already. Going back to financial education in schools, teachers will need to be trained to be able to do that. But as well as providing training for school children as part of their normal work, potentially they could deliver some simple financial education to other people in their communities. A lot of people listen to the radio, I understand. They listen because they want to find out about the weather and news, and so that could be used to deliver messages.
Цаг хугацаа давтагдчихгүй. Харин түүнийг яаж зөвшөөрснөөр бидний амжилт бүтээл, аз жаргал биднийг дагдаг. Урлагийн хүний хувьд гэр бүл, уран бүтээлдээ зарцуулах цагаа зөв зохицуулах хэрэгтэй гэдэг. Бидний хэрэглээ улам ухаалаг болсоор байгаа нь та бүхэнд харагдчих байна. Харин энэ бүхэн надад үнэхээр их таалагдчих.
Ухаалаг орон сууц. King Tower Apartment.
About the rural areas. In Mongolia, because we are nomads, 1/3 of population lives in nomadic way. But while they are following better pasture land, the children go to dormitory in that local small state. In the U.S. it will be county center, Samong Center. And in that center would be the best place for the children to first to teach them, then the children goes and impact on the parents using the whatever they have, sheep, horses, etc. So I think this is the combination of these trainings, isn't it, in the rural areas?
Yes.
What is the fourth?
The fourth one is the mass media.
Mass media.
Television, press, magazines, and also a website. So that's the fourth cluster of activities.
So everything that communication channels we can use. And by the way here, I would think about the role of IT, role of smartphone applications that will give them very easy chance. Now the youth is more busy with their phones than with anything else. So what is that component in the program which will cover or usage of this IT?
Yeah. Well, you make a very good point. And the Bank of Mongolia is going to develop a financial education website. And one of the critical things is to ensure that that works very well on smartphones. There are ways of designing websites so that they are compatible with smartphones and they work very well with them. So I completely agree with the point that you make. It can be used also, you can use social media to drive people to particular messages. You can't get big messages via social media, but you can prompt people to go. And I think one of the important things about financial education, it's not like having a tattoo that when you've had some, it lasts all your life. It rubs off. People need to be reminded. People need to hear messages several times because it's like anything else in our lives. We don't remember things the first time.
These people, depending on their income, as much as the income grows, revenue more, they become shifting to the middle class where they have more certain things to save
Yes.
after covering their costs.
Yes.
Then there's a middle class, and even higher middle class. Then a higher class, upper class. Those who has more money and they need more education on that, isn't it? So that's why it is kind of not just a one-time shot.
Exactly.
This is a constant work.
And as well as progressing as one gets older, there are also events which can be used as a really good focus for financial education.
Yes.
So if you're buying a home, if you buy a home or want to buy a home, you need to think about saving. In order to save, you need to budget so that you know where your money is going to and you're not wasting money. You have more to save. You need to think about borrowing and ensuring that you borrow only for things that you really need, not things which are luxuries you can do without.
Yep.
But also in buying a home, insurance. So insurance for your home in case it's damaged by fire or other means. For the contents, for your possessions. Life insurance, so that if the worst happens to you, you die, your family can still live in your home because your mortgage is covered by life insurance. So there are lots of different things which cluster around buying a home, so that instead of people having to work out for themselves what it is that they need to think about, it can be packaged up.
I say a lot of important role here is to be played by insurance company, mostly in Mongolia, because insurance coverage of property is very low.
Yes.
Fire insurance, etc. Only accidents, few here and there, car accidents or third-party damage. Insurance is more active in Mongolia. And as I see, this is again not only this national program 5 years term. It's a matter of continuing it, or during these 5 years of your program, you put, as you said earlier, foundations that it will grow. What you have been working in many countries all around the world, in Africa, even Azerbaijan, in Europe, Kenya, Kazakhstan. What is the success story on that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think the first thing to say is that the general principles apply everywhere. So the sorts of things that we've been talking about would be applicable in any country that we could think of. Mostly financial education is at a very early stage. So in general, it's difficult to measure what impact that's had across the population. And I think we have to be realistic that this is going to take time.
Of course.
And that if, for example, we're talking about financial education for children, this is an investment for the future. It's an investment really for when they become adults. So I think that the thing to focus on is the success of individual programs. So if financial education is provided in schools or in workplaces or for expectant mothers, one of the programs that we had very successfully in Great Britain, how successful is that program? And what we find is that there are many programs which have been evaluated and which have proved to be successful in that they not only reach people, but people improve their knowledge and understanding, they change their attitudes, they change their behaviors. Now, of course, that won't happen to everyone. Think about publicity against smoking. There are still people who smoke despite all the warnings. But I think this is a case of not letting the best be the enemy of the good. If we can help a significant proportion of people to manage their money better, in time that's going to spread across the population, and the impact on people, the impact on the economy, the impact on the financial sector will be seen over a period of years.
Indeed, what you going to start in Mongolia with the national program and this financial literacy, financial education national program is going to make a huge, definitely big foundations and of our future financial development through the people's knowledge. And I think it's a great job, and I would like you and your team to wish great success. And hopefully we can talk again maybe in the middle of your program once and at the end of the program.
Yeah, well, thank you. And I would just say on that this is exactly why the World Bank has been supporting this. And what I think is very encouraging here is that all the key institutions are part of this. So there's a working group, and there's the Bank of Mongolia, the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Finance, the head of the Financial Regulatory Commission. They've all signed this program.
That's the most important thing.
I think we can look forward to success. Thank you very much.
Good luck with your program.
Thank you.
Хүн төлөвчтэй өнөөдөр манай дефакто нэвтрүүлгийн зочноор Дэлхийн банкны санхүүгийн зөвлөх ноён Shaun Mundy оролцлоо. Их баярлалаа.
Энэ бол iPhone 6s. Дэмжих өөрчлөгдөөгүй. Гэхдээ хурууны даралтыг мэдэрнэ. Ингэснээр текстийн мэдээллийг уншихад өөр болсон. Имэйл уншихад, мэдээ уншихад байз чи мэдээ уншдаг гэж үү?
Яп.
Оо тэгэлгүй дээ. Камер нь 4K бичлэг хийж селфи хийхэд дэлгэцэн гэрэлтүүлж өгнө. Энд ч нэгсээ лайк цуглуулна да.
Thanks.
Зургнууд нь бас өөрчлөгдөж амьд болсон. Та хүрээд үз. Тийм ээ, энэ бол өөрчлөгдсөн зүйлс.